Oh, are you recording?
That's better.
What is your favorite piece of Gothic literature?
That has to assume that I've read a lot of Gothic literature to begin with.
Uh-huh.
Like, what examples do we have beyond, like, Frankenstein?
Dracula.
Okay.
Those sort of being some of the most famous. You've got Southern Gothic, which is your more, your O'Connors, Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights is not Southern Gothic, but just Wuthering Heights is Gothic literature. Rebecca, Turn of the Screw, Dorian Gray.
Because I'm not the biggest reader, let alone having... I'm not one that's consumed a lot of, like, the classics, for sure. So, like, it would probably be, by default, something like Dracula or Frankenstein, just because I've read
Beloved
those.
would be considered Gothic.
Uh-huh. But yeah, I just haven't read... Like, I've certainly seen all these adaptations. Have that going for me.
This question brought to you by how fascinated I am by that Frankenstein is the thing that, like, Japan was like, we must make something using that,
Comics-wise, I've read a lot of Preacher.
Okay. Bending the rules, but certainly engaging in a lot of, thematics there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think obviously Dracula, Frankenstein are great. I despise Wuthering Heights, but
what annoys me is I'm going to, like, go home and think about this and, like, realize, oh yeah, there's, like, another
Dr. Jekyll.
There's, like, some random thing that I've read that, like, oh yeah, that's right, that's completely, like, Gothic literature. I'll consider this question, though. I'll keep thinking about it.
Yes, let it ponder.
Okay. Well, I am Aaron Neuwirth. I am the editor-in-chief of Wheat Entertainment, and I am the co-host of Out Now with Aaron and Abe. And I'm a huge Godzilla fan.
My name is Terence Johnson. I am a writer at lenoirauteur.net, and I have seen some Godzilla movies.
And together, this is
Two Black Guys Talk Godzilla.
All right. Here we are.
Yes.
Episode 8.
Yes.
And we've gone a little bit out of order to do things the way we wanted to do them. So we're back here for the first time in a minute, like, back in the right space.
Is like the closest to a release date that we have recorded
yes,
in a while, I think.
Yes.
In a while,
that's very true. But a few things I'll point out. There will be episodes coming up, one specifically where Terence and I were able to watch the film in a theater and record right after, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Our second of 2 times we've done that.
Yes.
Both episodes that have not come out yet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And also notable, I was at Monsterpalooza last weekend, which was a lot of fun.
Seemed like it.
A lot of Godzilla stuff there. Not surprising.
I would hope so. The king of the monsters should be represented.
A lot of expensive Godzilla items on tables.
And what did you buy?
You got me.
Yes.
I did buy a Mechagodzilla enamel pin.
Okay.
I think that's the only Godzilla-related thing that I did buy. There was something else that I wanted, but I didn't have. I only had card. I didn't have cash. They were cash only.
Oh, boo!
But when we go to Comic-Con,
cash only at a convention.
I know. I was surprised too. Well, when we go to Comic-Con this summer, I have a feeling they'll be there. I mean, why wouldn't they be?
Yeah.
So I'll probably be able to obtain said item there as well, and I'll talk more about it then when I actually have it, as opposed to, talking about a thing I don't have. I'll also note, since the last time at MonsterCon, I met the good folks at the Monster Party podcast.
Ooh.
And if all goes well, Terence and I will be guests on the Monster Party podcast at some point. So shout out to them. And they're good-natured talking that they're at Monsterpalooza recording live for, I assume, several hours all weekend. That's a lot.
That's commitment.
But otherwise, I don't think we have anything new to share in regards to the podcast. So I guess we can get into what we're doing this week, which is another multi-feature episode. We're taking a bit of a break from Godzilla proper to talk about 2 films that don't even necessarily. Well, I guess Baragon does apply. Baragon will return and destroy all monsters.
This is the real question that I have for you, as you have been the one, you have been my sensei to guide me through Godzilla stuff, and we've taken a detour before, but that was to really engage with some of them. What made Frankenstein versus Baragon and War of the Gargantuans what was the reason why we did these two films? Like in your mind,
I mean, thematically, I think it makes a lot of sense because while they're not going to Godzilla, again, Baragon is in Destroy All Monsters, so there is a connection
That's
there
true.
that does help. As far as as if there's a rule book we're trying to follow, it does help. But in terms of like this is prime like this 60s period right here, like 62 to 66. That's a lot of like there's a lot of different movies coming out at one time. And this is directly within the Showa era while Godzilla movies are coming out. We have these as well. And because the Frankenstein thing seems so connected to Godzilla as far as they wanted to make King Kong and Frankenstein, all that stuff, and it didn't work out the way they intended, but it turned into this stuff instead, where you had King Kong eventually just face Godzilla, and then you had Frankenstein go up against some random monster because it couldn't be. They wanted it to be King Kong, then it wasn't King Kong. They wanted to be Godzilla, then it wasn't Godzilla. So it's like, all right, we'll get Baragon. Yeah, that's a monster. We'll do that. And then that movie was popular enough. We're like, okay, we can make like a weird sequel to it. We'll do that too. So and also the influence those movies have had. Like Del Toro is a huge fan of Frankenstein versus Baragon. Baragon is one of his favorite kaiju creations of all time.
Interesting.
Obviously, you know he's a big Frankenstein fan. He's always been a big Frankenstein fan.
Yes,
but he loves Baragon as well. He has like, if you see like his collection of stuff, he's big on Baragon. He loves Baragon. He loves this movie specifically because he loves Frankenstein. So things connected to it, he'll love also.
Yeah, I mean, I get the Frankenstein a bit. At the Baragon part, I mean, it does. Looking at Baragon does remind me a little bit of the kaiju in Pacific Rim.
Yes, very much so. It has a design thing going on there.
Yeah.
And also, the Gargantuas, that beyond just being what I think is a very fun movie, so many celebrities love Gargantuas.
Yeah, I was looking at the Wikipedia page.
Burton, Nick Cage, like there's so many celebrities that constantly, when they bring up monster movies, they're like, yeah, War of the Gargantuas. Like they'll bring that one up specifically. Not just, I like monster movies, I grew up watching monster movies.
Yeah,
I grew up watching War of the Gargantuas. So it's like, again, beyond the fact that just I wanted to talk about it, I do think there's enough there that suggests it'd be weird to leave this off, because even though it's not connected to the Prime series, it fits right in at the. I mean, it's still Ishiro Honda.
Yeah.
It's still everybody involved.
Yeah.
I don't know how Toho works where Ishiro Honda's just like, what if we didn't do Godzilla and I did something else? It's such a weird.
Well, so that was the interesting thing about War of the Gargantuas is that it's his last one under contract.
Yes.
And so it's like anytime that he wants to come back and make a movie for Toho, he is like ask permission or try out or do whatever you have to do in order to get a movie. Yeah, I think it's interesting looking at these. Funny enough, thinking about Frankenstein being sort of the remnants of things brought back to life. It's like this 2-movie thing is like the remnants of the story they never got to do.
It'd be like if Marvel makes like their Incredible Hulk movie, and then they're like, what if some other group made like an Abomination film at random, and just like put it out there, and then they made a sequel to that movie, and it's not Feige producing or whatever. It's just like it's Louis Leterrier's directing these random other Marvel movies that have don't connect to the Avengers or anything like that.
Yes.
They're just like, what if we just did this also?
Which I actually would prefer if Marvel did some more. Like one-shotty stuff.
If they loosened up a bit, if they had more Werewolf by Nights,
yes, Werewolf by Night, and Werewolf by Night in color. More what Moon Knight, what I thought it was. It was definitely interesting watching these 2 movies. I've noticed some particular tropes or some particular elements to these movies over the course of us watching all of them. That I think are really interesting. I know anytime there is a boat party or there is a boat, a monster is not far off. The boat party one in particular, which I have a grand thesis that these movies have stopped being about. Although Baragon has some serious stuff in it, that the movies have been more about the evils of the party pooper. That is like the thematic is like, do not be the party pooper. Do not be the person who shows up late to the party and tries to ruin it, because everybody will think you're a monster. That's what happened. In Gargantuas, it was, the party on the cliff, and in Frankenstein versus Baragon, it was the boat, and we obviously know with raids again. So yeah, I
really like that you've tracked this thing, because I'm like so curious to see how this plays out in the rest, because I know what certain things that happen. Like there's one coming up pretty quickly that I'm like, is there gonna be parties that I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, that's right, it is like a big party.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know if the American ones haven't quite done that, although I think not King of the Monsters, what Godzilla v Kong, the first one, probably does something. There's probably something similar. I'm trying to think about what happens in that Florida sequence. I can't quite.
The Florida, he just kind of shows up.
Yeah, he just sort of shows up. But like, yeah,
in 14, like Hawaii, you're watching like people just be like, oh
yeah, they're on vacation.
They're just having a nice time in Hawaii.
Yeah, vacation.
Yeah. Like, wait, why is the water going away?
Yeah, it's not quite party level, but yeah,
no, I know what you're saying.
In these early ones, is like if we open a movie on the boat, the monster is coming. If it's a military boat, the monster will be there, and then if it's a party, they'll be there. But yeah, I think these two films were interesting watches. I will say I like Frank. It's funny to read the wiki and just see how many people love War of the Gargantuas, when I think it's the worst movie of the two. I think Frankenstein versus Baragon is better. And I guess I could see if you were like really, if you were experiencing that as a young, because like all the people that you mentioned are in their 50s, 60s. And so this feels like this might have been their first entrance into the kaiju world, was seeing something, particularly the Americans, is like seeing this on television or in the movie theater. We had a Jeff Goldblum, Throwback Thursday post the other day with him talking about King Kong versus Godzilla. And so it was interesting watching them. And with the knowledge that like Toho really wanted to do a Frankenstein movie and have Frankenstein battle Godzilla. That didn't work out, so they put King Kong, and they were like, we're going to give King Kong electrical power up. And then they were like, okay, we finally got Frankenstein, like, let's make that movie. And like such strong desire that they like latched onto that. And I think they explore that, like all of the concepts within what you can do with the Frankenstein story in Frankenstein versus Baragon versus in Gargantuas. Even though it's there, it's like I feel like the thematic.
Well, yeah, if you're more attached to the Frankenstein story, then one obviously is going to do more for the other, because the Gargantuas is barely a sequel. Like it is, and in the American cut, which we didn't watch, they cut out any reference possible to the Baragon one. So like even then, it's just like its own thing completely.
Yeah, which I think, I think I prefer Frankenstein versus Baragon, and we can talk about sort of the two movies individually, but those just the overall thoughts where it's like, okay, like I'm seeing the beats, I'm seeing what we've gotten. I will say that IG, we should know how to pronounce this man's name. We've been talking about him for long. The super effects. Special effects. Can you tell that I'm very tired?
Before the show, you said I'm more awake than ever.
I certainly did not.
Direct quote.
I think I told you. I said I am. I'm tired. But yeah, I think the special effects in these two are really
they
great.
Look great. No question.
If obviously Ghidorah is the high watermark of what we've seen so far, of just what they were able to do with Ghidorah in those battles, but like this is up there. These two movies are up there in terms of the VFX. So yeah, I think I prefer the first movie versus the second.
Well, I definitely prefer Gargantuas. That said, it was my first time seeing Frankenstein versus Baragon. I hadn't seen it before.
Interesting.
And it's largely because these two, all of certain other ones, they just don't come in the rotation very much, at least anymore. Like, I'm sure back in the day, they played on cable or what have you, would be a certain kind of thing. But, like, Gargantuas is not on Blu-ray at all. I have a bootleg copy of it, but, like, fortunately for Max and Criterion Channel, they have those movies.
Yeah.
And that's great. But, like, they're just, for whatever reason, whatever licensing reasons, they're just not, like, super available in the same way. But no, I was happy to watch both for sure, and we'll talk about both movies. But yes, first time watch for Baragon. Even though I've seen like clips of it at various points, but I'm like, I need to see this whole thing. And we've been doing this podcast, so it makes sense. Gargantuas I've seen plenty of times, so I'm very used to Gargantuas.
Yeah,
and it certainly has a mode that it's in that I just really appreciate. And it's pretty nonstop, which is something I also like about it.
Yeah.
If you're ever like, if there's ones where you think there's a curious lack of kaiju action, this is not one of those movies.
That is true. That is true.
This one is, it constantly is on the move. It stops very rarely for, minor descriptions of things. But with all that said, let's just get to our two different discussions here. Let's start off with Frankenstein versus Baragon.
From the ocean's unfathomable depths, a gigantic, man-like creature appears. From the fiery depths of the earth comes a prehistoric mastodon of destruction. Never before has the screen known such heart-stopping terror. Starring Nick Adams.
Well, I feel he's very important from a scientific point of view. I'd have to cut off a leg or an arm.
Doctors, I won't let you conduct this test.
Frankenstein, with the strength of 1,000 men. And every man's need for affection that makes him a willing captive.
The chain hurts you.
The new scoop of the century. The horrifying touch of a severed hand with a life of its own. Force of a monster that dwarfs man's tallest structures.
Okay, let me read briefly this description. There's a longer version and a shorter version. I think I should read the shorter version.
Please.
Although the longer version does have, it's not super long, but it has just enough extra descriptions. Or you know what? I'm just going to read it.
Oh gosh. Okay, great.
During World War II, a human heart taken from a certain lab in Europe, Dr. Frankenstein's, is kept in a Japanese lab. When it gets exposed to the radiation of the bombing of Hiroshima, the heart grows size, mutates, and sprouts appendages, and eventually grows into a complete body and escapes. Later, a feral boy with certain physical deformity, a large head of a flat top, is captured by scientists who refer to the boy as Frankenstein. The creature grows to the height of 20 feet, escapes again, fights police and army, and is practically indestructible. Later, a reptilian monster goes on a rampage. Eventually, the Frankenstein creature and the reptile face off in a terrible battle.
Yeah.
Does a lot of justice, I think.
I would say so.
So this is directed by Ishiro Honda. It has Akira Ifukube doing the score. It's the same producers. Even got Nick Adams here, who's in Invasion of Astro Monster, which is the next episode.
Yes.
He had a double dose of kaiju fun going on in Japan. So yeah, it's got all your favorites have wound up in here.
It felt like a throwback to... It's a less serious Godzilla, the original. This feels like Ishiro Honda is like back in the mode of where like there is some substance to the story. I was like watching it and I was like, okay, I was like, they're in Hiroshima. And then I said, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. And with the second that plane started flying overhead, I was like, oh my goodness.
And I'll say, this is the first time that that Japan had a movie that showed the Hiroshima bombing in some way. They never did that before. And I thought that was crazy. Like, it's the kind of thing that I tend to find intense when you're like throwing a nuke into a situation and actually letting it blow up. It's like, and they for 1964.
Yeah, we're not that far away.
It looks pretty good. Like as far as how they accomplished for a movie that's not made on a high budget. Like I remember, when Oppenheimer was coming out and the news was like, Christopher Nolan blew up a real nuclear bomb, or blew up a real bomb to show the testing of the bombs, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's how movies used to work. That's like, I get that that's interesting now, but it's like, it's not like we had CG back then. And you had a bomb, you decided to blow up a bomb and film it. Yeah, like that's how you do it.
It was wild. I was like, I don't know what. I think innately, I was kind of like, okay, like this is where we are in time, even though they tell you where you are in time. Like we know we're in World War II, like explicitly. But just seeing that was just like, I was like, whoa,
yeah.
Whoa.
We're jumping ahead of things, though. We have a whole, Nazis come in at the beginning of this movie. into a laboratory.
Uh-huh.
It's like I'm watching First Avenger. Red Skull's coming in here and trashing the place. Nazis come in and steal something. They steal the rabbit's foot.
Yeah.
Like
They take it away.
they take it away. The doctor that's left behind is like smashed in his lab. Like,
Yeah.
"Ow."
Which I thought was interesting. These two movies have interesting openings in that what sounds we hear.
Sure.
If this were a modern movie and we were approaching this, I'd be like, the fact that you have people speaking on screen and we don't hear what they're saying, or the fact that we're just hearing like the clinks of the glass that this doctor is breaking, like would annoy me. But here, I found it interesting that they were like, okay, we're going to try and have like this sort of like wordless opening to have you be like, what's in the box, and who's this person, and why are the Nazis here, and why are we in World War II, and how is this going to affect everything? So it like did drive intrigue.
Mm-hmm. And the Nazis exchanged whatever they took with the Japanese for some reason. I'm so curious, like, what the thought process was. Like, yeah, all right, we'll just have Nazis steal something, and then they'll, like, give it to Japan, and they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I guess that's Japan, like, making the kind of claim that the Germans saw us as technologically superior, and so, therefore, they knew that we would handle whatever we had.
Yeah, it's now that I think about it, like, this is...
Right?
This is, like, one of the more fascinating things about Japan in that, like, particularly now, how much it, like, just is not in our consciousness about whose side everybody was on.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that factoring into the story. So it's like, they are, 14? 24 years removed from the war. That's not a long time. That's not a long time. And so, and not to say that, American stuff is all what it's cracked up to be in sort of how we portray ourselves in our movies and stuff like that. But it's really, really fascinating to think about, like, 25 years after the war, it's like, okay, now we're going to explicitly show this bombing. We're going to have Nazis in this movie, but we're going to, like, position it like, okay, they handed it to us because we're so technologically smarter. And it's like, but why are we all working together? Why were you working together? So yeah, it's interesting to think about.
Yeah,
It's
the excuses they're making to, like, how do we bridge the gap of Frankenstein's lab to Japan? And I do like the choices have weird implications that I think are interesting, but then it's like, yeah, it's also just an excuse to get to, like, this nonsense stuff involving, like, there was like basically the solve is we want Frankenstein in this movie, but it's a kaiju film. We need to make Frankenstein 50 feet tall. What's the solve for that? Well, they stole the heart, and it was in Japan, and then the bomb went off and irradiated it. It's like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, but which is interesting because, like, the heart could have, this story, it could have just been.
It didn't have to specifically be, like,
it could just,
it'd have to be Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It could have just been Frankenstein, like,
Certainly. So yeah, that was interesting, and then we time jump 15 years later, and now Hiroshima is livable, which is another fascinating thing in history to think about. And we've got Nick Adams, who I will say I thought did a good job. I liked seeing him. He was a lot of fun, as opposed to the other one we will talk about later, who I was like, get him off of the screen, please. He's dating the fellow doctor, and we've got, Frankenstein. One of the funniest lines in all of these movies was they were like, he's a full-blooded white boy about Frankenstein. I was like, they're gonna make sure that you know that when this man tears up the city or does something against these other people, that he is not Japanese. He's a full-blooded white boy. I think it was nice to see. It was nice to see certain elements popping back up. I think the news reporters being more involved. I told you I do miss going to the actual news office, the newspaper office. I do miss that in these films.
That's the other thing I meant to mention. In the news this week, very current to our times, before this was the week this happened. Shin Godzilla is coming back to theaters in 4K this summer.
Yes,
which I'm very excited about. But that's a movie that very heavily has news and offices and all the things you're asking for. It has a lot of it to a comical degree on purpose.
Yeah,
I think it has a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, so I think this movie is interesting, and of course, once Frankenstein gets into the tale, we're sort of learning and growing with him, and
Takashi Shimura pops up in here as well again, which
which always welcome to
he pops up both in the past and then back in the present as well, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, he's just here.
I think it was interesting to see, they were like, how do we know he's really Frankenstein's monster? And the person is like, cut off an arm or a leg and see if it grows back. I was like, oh, so we're real serious now in this film. Even though it is very lighthearted and you see that he, doesn't attack people, he's just really hungry.
But you also see him like, don't hurt me, please. Like, there's a lot of, and because it's, a boy, essentially. Essentially the thing is a boy the whole time. Yeah. It just happens to get larger.
But I wrote here in my notes that even though I enjoyed this movie a little more, this movie felt like they reused a lot of stuff here from other films. In the vibes department, in the music, it's very similar. In some of the shot selection, it feels very similar to Varan. Obviously,
yes,
a better movie because we all know Varan was dreadful. Even the Varanites know. So yeah, I thought that there was some interesting stuff in there, but I was kind of like the movie sort of got bogged down the more I felt it felt like the past. But obviously, Baragon shows up, and there was a moment where Baragon jumped up and flew in the air, which was also very Varan, and I did cackle just like I did when I was watching Varan. And so yeah, I thought there were some interesting things. I
like the incorporation of a monster, let alone the fact that and I do like that. I don't think there's a would I like Frankenstein versus Godzilla? Of course I would, but I like that it's just another monster.
Yeah,
and it's because it keeps the story about Frankenstein. But the fact that but I like the kind of mystery of something else is out there attacking things, the way the film treats it as if wait, is Frankenstein doing it? What's going on here? What's going on over there?
Well, I like the interesting way it forces these characters to deal with things where it's weird stuff is happening. Is it this monster? And they're like, no, but yes, right? And they will come back to that in War of the Gargantuas, where they're like, okay, this is Frankenstein, but they're like, but it's not. And everybody's like, well, look outside. What is that? That thing looks an awful lot like that. And so here, you've got things happening where it's Baragon is emerging and he's causing this earthquake, and things that are happening out in the world, and they're like, oh, well, it's Frankenstein. And so it's you've got an interesting sort of stuff for our main characters to play off of, as well as for the monster to have to deal with. I do have a question. Other than Frankenstein, what is the obsession with octopi?
Well, I think it's just because it looks interesting and it requires. Either they can use just an actual octopus, and film it in rear projector, whatever, to make it just look bigger, or just the fact that they don't have to come up with a new design. That it's they already have giant squid legends, so we can play with that and we can make a giant version of that kind of thing. They thought the thing in King Kong was so successful,
which it was.
It's a very effective scene, and audiences liked it. The creatives liked it, so they're like, we should do that again. Yeah, they're just a fan of the idea of octopus because it's unique as far as animals are concerned already, and they can actually get one when the time calls for it. Because in this movie, you watched it on the Criterion channel, right? So it has the alternative ending which features it, which is it's such a weird. I was well aware there are two endings, but this is a movie where Frankenstein and Baragon have this ongoing battle.
Yes.
It takes a long battle.
It's a long time.
It's a long battle. They're going at it, and eventually like the Earth basically swallows them. Like the Earth comes, but yeah, Frankenstein finally like I guess break Baragon's neck and then gets like throws him down a cliff or whatever. And then Frankenstein's just like, whew, what a day. And then out of nowhere, an octopus crawls out and it's like, oh, now there's another battle. And I'm just thinking, this is so much drama. Like, this is too, like, it's almost too, and like, I guess this is the American version where they have this one, I believe, with the octopus ending.
Yes, that is
and it's such a, like, does it like speak to like our need for like more? Or is that like just an American thing where it's like we can't just end our battle? We have to have an additional boss fight.
Yeah,
even if it makes literally no sense whatsoever that an octopus would have crawled all the way on the land for this specific fight just to pick a fight with Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, it's
not like they're by water. Like they're in the mountains.
Yes.
And so an octopus presumably like crawled across several villages, and villagers are like, there's a giant octopus. And the octopus is like, don't worry about this right now. Yeah. I'm going for Frankenstein.
Which you do get some sort of squid-like thing in Skull Island.
Yes. He just eats it.
And then he eats it.
An old boy tribute. That's what the director literally said it was. A tribute to Old Boy. Yeah.
And then in the show...
And King Kong vs. Godzilla, obviously. But in terms of how he eats it, it's a tribute to Old Boy. Anyway.
Yeah, the one in King Kong, that was terrifying. Yeah. Legitimately terrifying. And I mine octopi, whatever, however we want to... Whatever the plural. But yeah, it was just interesting where you're watching it. And I do think it's fascinating that they had that second ending, because if you like read... Ishiro Honda didn't know that they were gonna air like it because it aired when they brought it back to Japan with that ending. A lot of people were like, "But that's not the."
Yeah, exactly.
It feels very. I was watching Pride and Prejudice before you came over. It feels.
Go on.
It feels very Pride and Prejudice 2005 in a way that like. The ending in the UK was different than the one that we have. And so as they've been rescreening it, people are like, what do you mean there's this ending scene with Darcy and Lizzie outside of Pemberley, like being all cutesy? Like that's not the end of the movie. So yeah, it's interesting,
it's like a manufactured Mandela effect.
Yeah. And I will say that, that's just a better ending. But yeah, it was interesting. Frankenstein versus Baragon, I think the cultural significance and sort of the going there element is what made me enjoy it a little more. It had a little more weight. I felt like the human plot, because I'm very keyed into these human plots, and like the human plots honestly are starting to make or break these movies. and that doesn't mean that the human plot has to be, so real. Like we have watched some bonkers stuff. So I don't mind the bonker stuff. I don't mind going on the journey, but I do need it to be like moving. And so I think that was this. I think that's maybe why, to transition it to Gargantuas a little bit, why I struggled more so with that film than I did with Frankenstein vs. Baragon.
We'll talk about that in a second, but and part of this comes from the fact that I've only seen this movie once, but I did really like, and like again, I like the movie, like so it's solid.
Yeah,
it feels. I can agree with you as far as it's doing. It's sort of repeating, but it's doing a lot of familiar things that Honda's done before. It feels like which is I think also why I think Gargantuas feels like a change in step for him. But I genuinely liked the humans dealing with the feral boys stuff. Like it was able to attach me to what Frankenstein would become by the time he grows into this giant thing, and just legitimately feels like a confused creature that doesn't know what it's doing and has people shooting at him and stuff. It's like, I'm not trying to be a menace here. What else do I do? What am I? I'm the Beast. He sings a song that's added to make the movie longer. And then it makes $500 million. So, just domestically, that's a whole other topic. But no, I did in the realm of like how to do something with the human side of the story that's going to make it connect in a way. I didn't expect this movie to have that sort of dramatic oomph. I figured it'd be more on the line of like, isn't this silly fun? in the way that these movies have been obviously progressing. They're becoming more and more kid friendly,
especially with Frankenstein.
Like, when you're saying the word Frankenstein over and over again, it's like how. But then again, I mean, there's not beyond Young Frankenstein, one of the funniest movies of all time. There's not a lot of comedic Frankenstein type things. I mean, so it's like I get the monster is inherently riddled with the sort of pathos because
it's very serious.
Because it's a thing that just doesn't. It's not supposed to exist, and it's very aware of that. And so that makes it a complicated creature, right? Because it's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be. Like, you put parts together and put a brain in me, and I guess I'm alive now. But, like, I didn't want that. But then you made me alive. That's why I'm very curious about this Guillermo del Toro movie. Like, it looks like it's really trying to capture that idea. It's like, what am I? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so that's Frankenstein versus Baragon. I guess we can move on now. We can talk about the
War of the Gargantua. It began with a mysterious, wild storm at sea, and before the night was over, the whole world would hear of the terror of the Gargantuas. Where had such a monster come from? What forces created such a devastating destroyer? Who or what could stand up to it? Armies fought the monster with million-volt laser beams.
Hey, look! Another one!
You'll see all of their terrifying battle to the death when you come to the greatest monster movies ever made, The War of the Gargantuas.
Okay. That should have some little bit of a trailer for The War of the Gargantuas. Here's a brief plot synopsis for this film. A giant cannibalistic humanoid's rampage through Tokyo is halted by his more docile twin, but neither their reunion nor their scientist caretakers can prevent their eventual duel.
Yeah, that sounds like the movie. So this was an interesting watch. I do agree with you in terms of like the kaiju goings on. This is some of the most kaiju we've gotten in a movie.
Oh, for sure. There's a lot. Like, it is.
Yeah, like a significant amount in a way that we haven't experienced.
I should clarify, too. Kaiju refers to giant monster. When it's humanoids, I believe it's kaigen.
Kaigen. Mm-hmm. A lot of it. And I liked the stuff. It's funny, because this movie has some of the things that, that the kaiju ones don't have, which is the humans finally land a shot at the monster. We have seen 75 billion of these movies, and they are shooting at point blank range, and the bombs and the torpedoes and the guns are hitting everything but the monster. But in this one, they were tearing this dude up. I should say Gyra would be the main one that they were tearing up.
Yeah, they saw a colored man with a perm walking around town.
Yeah,
they just shot him.
But we won't get into some interesting historical implications there. But they were tearing him up, and so from that standpoint, I did enjoy it. The human stuff just fell a little flat for me, and I think a lot of that is just Russ Tamblyn.
Academy Award winner Russ Tamblyn.
Academy Award winner
for West Side Story.
He didn't win.
Didn't he win?
No, he didn't play. He didn't. He played Riff. Riff didn't win. The guy who played. My God, and I love this movie, but
Oh, you're right. Oh, yeah, I'm just thinking of the.
What you were thinking, that was Mike Feist. Mike Feist's incredible performance as Riff that did not get Oscar nominated for some reason when he really should have won that award infected your brain and made you think that was the person who won. But no, it was George Chakiris.
It's George Chakiris. There we go. That's what yeah.
But yeah, Russ Tamblyn was boring in this movie. And
I just associate the role. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But in such a nothing way, in a way that I did not buy the chemistry with that character. And Akemi, more so like Nick Adams. I think Nick Adams is feels like, okay, this is what an American is supposed to be doing in this Godzilla movie in terms of actually acting.
Well, to your credit, Nick Adams had a great time in Japan, despite the fact that it was a kind of not the movie necessarily wanted to make. It still granted him the chance to to act and to have fun, and he embraced the chance to do these things. where Russ Tamblyn hated his time doing this movie. Like, he rewrote his dialogue. People were frustrated with how he was acting on set. It wasn't the most conducive experience for everybody involved. I'm not necessarily saying that show specifically, but I would agree that he's not the most exciting person to watch this movie. I think what it does, though, is compensate for it by having a ton of monster action in it.
Yeah.
And not just monster action, it's because that they're humanoid and there's two of them, they can really move. You know, it's not rubber suits, which I love seeing my rubber suits. I love seeing my suitmation and seeing the wacky character designs and everything and seeing everything. But the fact that they're humanoid and they have all, 2 arms, 2 legs, and they can like run around and do wrestling battles in the midst of crazy miniatures. They can throw boats at each other. They can pick up building pieces and use them as weapons. That stuff really works for me.
The fights and the special effects are next level.
And it feels like
incredible.
It feels like a great change of pace. And it is fun. Like as much as like the cute, like if Russ Tamlin's not doing it for me, the movie's pacing I think really works, and I do think there's enough going on every minute where I'm not feeling bogged down just because the human plot, which again is not the most important thing, especially in this movie where the plot
I was just a little bored. By it.
I think this movie
and that's with me really appreciating the fights, and I think you get to the point it's like Gyra has been lit up, right? Shot a million times, laser piercing the skin, electrocuted in the water, and then here comes Sanda, the other one, and you're like, why are there
there's another one?
And then you find out that the reason why is that pieces of the flesh of the original one that we witnessed in Frankenstein vs. Baragon attached to something on the seafloor, which sort of like clones them.
Yes.
Which is so out of this world foolish. In a way that not even the alien stuff, which literally was out of this world, is foolish.
See, this is another reason why I like this movie. That I like that it's like, what is this supposed to be? Oh, obviously cells of the other Frankenstein creating 2 twin monsters.
Which it's so ridiculous. But yeah, I think that you get the 2 of them, and then over time we find out the reason why the big beef is because Gyra's eating people, and Sanda does not, and so that he sees
Sanda's chill.
Yes,
even it looks chill. Even in his design, he looks chill.
Yes, because so Gyra in the beginning of this.
Let's talk about the beginning. The beginning of this movie, you have a sailor just doing his thing,
mind his business,
stormy ocean, but it's like it's fine.
And here comes another giant octopus,
and a giant octopus reaches its way inside the. And this is the octopus that was used because presumably in Japan they're like, we don't have that ending, so let's use it in this movie now.
Yeah,
so they don't have that version, so it's like, well, we're still going to use an octopus, obviously.
Yeah,
we made an octopus puppet, so they put the octopus in here. Guy freaks out. Is like, wait a minute. There's not supposed to be an octopus on this boat.
Yes.
and the octopus, first he chases the tentacle off, but then the whole thing attacks him.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And then the octopus gets pulled away, and it's like, what happened? And this green sexy ass monster with hair shaking in the wind.
This green what?
The way it's presented, he looks like he's coming out of a Michael Jackson music video. The way his hair's shaking around, and he's got fur that makes it look like he has a cool jacket on. It's just such a weird look in the darkness. In light, obviously looks a different way, but in darkness, he looks like he's coming out of an 80s music video. The only thing was missing was a smoke machine. And even then, he still had the wind and the water. So he looks like Michael Jackson's doing one of those in between the movie sequences, he's doing one of his solos where he's like, oh my god, he's doing one of these and he's fighting an octopus. It's great.
And then to make matters worse, the sailor's like, let me get out of here. Oh, thank God. And then here come Gyra shaking the boat, picking the boat up, killing 4 out of the 5 crew members.
He goes from I'm just killing this octopus to I guess the boat deserves my punishment also.
Yeah, and for what?
For literally no reason except, well, I'm hungry now, and the octopus did not satiate me.
Yeah, it was...
it's too rubbery. I need human bones.
This guy who survived this thing is telling this to the police officer, and the police officers are just being rude as all get out.
And the best line of this is such a postmodern kind of dialogue where he's like, if I was gonna lie, would I use something less ridiculous than Frankenstein?
Yeah.
Which is that's such a perfect line.
Very Life of Pi. Which, speaking of, I saw on stage. And maybe this is, I'm starting to see the tendrils of why I didn't necessarily enjoy this movie, because even though I do think that line is very, very funny, that, we're about to go on a wild tangent here, is when I just cannot get into the ending of Life of Pi.
All right.
Because you get the whole story, and then the guy is like, okay, well, let me tell you what really happened. Here's this awful story. Now, which one would you rather believe? The thing, I came here asking about the truth.
I don't know if he tells him the true story. He tells him a version that is like, is this what you want to hear that would make sense?
Yes. I came here to hear the story about how you survived, and you talking to me about a tiger and a hyena and all of these things.
But I don't
when you could have just been like, hey, the reason why we survived is because me and my mama had to make some really difficult decisions.
But I don't ascribe to the idea that that's necessarily the actual true story. I think that's the version that he knows he can say if he needs to, like.
Yeah, the vibes around that. But anyways, I just because you get to the end of that story and he's like, let me tell you this. And he's like, now which one do you want to believe? Because the whole story is about, do you believe in God? Do you believe the story? What story
because the guys aren't leaving them. They're like sitting there being like, you expect us to believe this? Like,
to transition that to this world, and that's why I asked you during the movie, are we in Godzilla Japan? Because it's very fascinating. There's a lot about believability within the story to bring that Life of Pi example back to what we're actually talking about. Where it's like, obviously the guy saying that, wouldn't I have chosen something a little more believable, is hilarious.
Yes.
Legitimately funny. But they are also living in a world where they have seen giant octopus, they have seen Frankenstein, and they have seen and Baragon, right? Those three creatures live in this world because this is a sequel. This is the same timeline. And it brings interesting things into the story, right? Where they're like Frankenstein and Akemi and Terrible Russ Hamblin are like, but no, that's not Frankenstein.
I could argue.
It's interesting.
One interesting is, I guess, Baragon, because he's going to be in Destroy All Monsters. I guess his species crosses over dimensions in the Showa era.
Maybe he was going through the Hollow Earth.
Yeah, maybe with Toho,
because he came up from under the ground.
Yeah, I assume it's just like a different species. It's a different Baragon, like the same species, but like a different one or something. Like that is one way to justify it. It's Baragon's baby because Destroy All Monsters is set in the future. It's Baragon Junior. But if the movie was. If it was crafted to more directly resemble a sequel as opposed to like a quasi spin-off, there probably could have been more ways to use that dialogue. But I do think the implication is we had a Frankenstein and we killed it. So what are you talking about? There's no Frankenstein that died already. Like, I think that might be more of like what they're trying to lean on, but it's just not like how far in the weeds do we need to get in our reason for disbelieving a story about a giant octopus and Frankenstein? But yes, are they in a world where wild things have presumably happened? It would seem so. I don't know how in tune all the different Japanese islands are. And they're like, a lot of it is always, even though there's the news aspect, a lot of it always is trying to like, we got to keep this under wraps. We can't let everybody else know, or else they'd be panicked. That kind of thing. Yeah, I do wonder if that's also playing a role here. But as far as giant octopus goes, that does feel like the kind of mermaids and giant krakens, like the kind of like mythological things that sailors say they see, but people don't actually believe, that kind of thing. So like the idea of saying, if you start off your story of giant octopus, someone might already being like, okay, so you're drunk or something, like what's going on?
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, I think that the fight stuff really worked for this, but yeah, I just was. Maybe I do need.
I don't dislike Russ Hamblin as much as you seem to.
Maybe I just.
I can agree he's not as good as Nick Adams, but I wasn't sitting there being like, this guy's really a stick in the mud. I don't like what he's really bogging this movie down.
And maybe I just do need the wacko, because you inceptioned me into pitching this podcast to you, and now you have inceptioned me again, where I'm like, maybe I do need the wacky Gonzo plot to keep me going, because I do think Gargantuas does have a lot of good for it, but I just was
and a lot of wacky Gonzo stuff. It is.
I know, but
also by the way, Leo 1 Inception, Aaron 2 Inception. So I'm just putting that out there.
Well, no, the Inception, maybe this is layer number 2 of the Inception. The original Inception was get Terrence to want to do a podcast about my favorite movie.
Those are two different things.
And above that has
even if we didn't do the podcast and you want, like, I'd still have to do Inception to watch this movie to do something. Like, those do seem like two different Inceptions.
Now we're like, because I gave Terrence the idea to do this podcast, now he's going to be thinking about the plots of the human plots, and like that, his enjoyment of these movies is going to hinge on that stuff. And what the third level is like, I like Godzilla. That's the top, or whatever, whatever the levels that we need to go down to get to that are.
You ever think about how everyone else is like, Inception's impossible, and then they get to Tom Hardy, and he's like, Inception's not impossible. It's just really, really hard. It's like, has he been doing Inceptions a whole bunch of, like, what's his deal? What's going on? Where's his side story?
Inception, yeah, and it's
he seems very confident about the fact that they can do Inceptions.
Yeah, because it's not difficult. You know, like this, if you say elephant, and what are you thinking about? An elephant. But yeah, I think you have Inception me in that, and now here we are watching Frankenstein versus Baragon and War of the Gargantuas. But yeah, I just was bored for most of the time watching this, with the exception of most of the kaiju fighting. I thought was,
well, don't say most of the time, because that's like 80% of the movie.
I said most of the kaiju fighting.
Okay, that's still a lot of movie.
Because then it's like, how are we going to kill these things? Okay, well, if we blow them up, pieces of their flesh will attach to other things.
Yeah, there'll be more gargantuas.
Oh my goodness!
Goodness. Fortunately, the world opens up itself and swallows them.
An underwater volcano
arrives,
and that's how we end these things. And yeah, it just sometimes all the elements come together for you in the movie, and sometimes they don't. And in this one, they don't. But I think just the special effects. I just think I see why. I can see why people really love War of the Gargantuas. Just like what they are able to do, what they were able to do in that one is like this. This is like a high watermark for effects. You know, we're 10 years, a little under 8 years.
It's 66 for this movie.
When does Star Wars come out? 74?
77.
77. So 10, we're a decade away from like gigantic leap.
Yeah.
In effects. But like this is up there.
I mean, 2001's 4 years or 3 years away, and that, okay. But it's not and that has a remarkable use of effects in its own way. But sure, Star Wars is obviously, in terms of like just kineticism, like it's doing some crazy.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, like what we were able to do. This one is up there. I will definitely praise it for that.
I mean, you mentioned the idea that like a lot of these filmmakers and actors or what have you mentioned this when they saw these movies probably when they were younger. I didn't see this movie when I was younger specifically. As I got more into Godzilla, this is certainly into my teens and 20s when I saw Gargantuas for the first time.
Yeah.
And even then, yes, obviously my tastes are still operating a certain way when it comes to just the general enthusiasm I have for the genre. However, I do like this movie as basically a change of pace from the kinds of things that are going on, where because this movie feels so much less indebted to the human side of things and wants to just be like, what if we really maximized how much kaiju, kaigen, throwdown stuff we can do, and minimize the human stuff as much as we can? What would that be like? And that's what this feels like. And that's like the latest Godzilla Kong movie is like, that's a whole lot of Kong without anything else. Like, if people want to keep complaining about the humans, what does that solve look like? And I do think like this movie works in that regard as far as, let's try something here. Let's try to do something where we take away this aspect and really maximize this as much as we can, where we can still like have a few things to piece things together. What would that look like? And I do think it's largely successful because it's frankly a lot of fun. Like I found it a lot of fun. I mean, clearly other people found it fun, but like it's a cult favorite. I mean, I like this more than many Godzilla movies. I think the movie really delivers on like just being this 90-minute romp that is wacky, yes, but like has, like you're saying, great effects in it, great just like stunt work. Like it's doing the kind of thing where yes, easily kids can follow along with it and have joy about it, but when I want to like typify the idea of a kaigen movie like this is like, yeah, there's something here. It's like getting to base emotions at this point, and I could easily justify myself just not being inherently invested in what the humans are doing when the movie's objective seems so obviously not curtailed to let's make this let's have a melodramatic plot line and this and that, and let's do things that'll make sure that we can establish a more grounded set of rules. This one's like, let's throw a lot of that out of the window. And that's, I think, what I'm responding to.
I think, like I said, I really do appreciate the effects, and I do think that the battles are well staged. And maybe it's just like us coming off of Ghidorah.
Sure.
Of like there is something special about the kaiju versus the kaijin.
Yeah, there's a reason there's only like 2 of these, and there's 38 Godzilla movies. I mean,
I told you I did not want to know the number of how many more of these movies I will be having to watch. And now I know that we already know that we're going to be doing this podcast till 2020. What, 27 is when when
Supernova comes out.
When Supernova comes out, yeah. So yeah, I'm interested. Yeah, I think these are fine entries. Like I said, I was a little bored.
This is a better batch than Mothra, Rodan, Varan. Like, as much as we like Mothra, this is easily a better batch than the 3 of those combined.
Rodan and Varan are just because I think even though I'm not 100% in love with War of the Gargantuas, like it at least feels like a movie. Rodan is like a bad movie, and then Varan is like one boring movie, and Rodan is 2 bad movies put together. So it's like, in Mothra, it was lovely. But just like Mothra, the movie Mothra is just as lovely as the actual bug.
Well, we'll get back to, like, this is our last spin-off episode that we have as far as this season goes. When we get to the Heishi era, there are some spin-off episodes that are going to involve Mothra. So we'll see. And I haven't seen those ones.
Is this the one you talking about where it was like Resurrection of Mothra 1, 2, and 3?
There's Rebirth of Mothra 1, 2, and 3. Yes, and I haven't seen those, but I have them, and we will be watching them. So stay tuned for that.
Do y'all see? Everybody listening, you see how I'm getting bullied into what this is the Inception. Okay, the Inception was in more.
He acts so tough, but he has this wide smile on his face.
The Inception was even more insidious now that I'm thinking about it, because now it was like, first of all, it was Godzilla, and suddenly I have watched movies about Frankenstein, I watched movies about Rodan and Varan. I'm going to be watching multiple Mothra movies. This was like a full court press for the Japanese kaiju.
This is love.
And next, you're going to be making me watch that turtle. What's that turtle one?
Gamera?
Yeah. Who knows?
There are key ones that would work. I'm not a huge fan of all of the Gamera movies, but there are certain ones that really, really work.
The fire-breathing turtle or whatever that thing looked like.
Yeah, he's a friend of all children.
Which is crazy. If there is an Anguirus movie down the line, I'll watch that, because I really do love Anguirus.
There is an Anguirus heavy one. I mean, well, you'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see. Anguirus is. We're not done with Anguirus.
Yeah.
All right. That's been this week's episode. I think we can close it there.
Yes.
With Terence's clear acknowledgement that he can't wait to do all of the.
This is not the acknowledgement.
Just the frothing at the mouth of joy that he has.
This is me laughing in fear, in terror.
Just knowing that, like, during certain breaks, he'd be like, I got to spend time watching Godzilla movies.
This is a scary thought.
Where he's like, I'm off of work, but hey, guess what? It's a time for another round with Baragon.
Just like the people of Japan in these movies, I can't escape. I can't escape.
You can find everything I do on my personal Substack page, thecodeofzeke.substack.com. I co-host Out Now with Aaron and Abe, my friend Abe. We talk about weekly movie releases. I also co-host the summer of 2015 at 10. Myself, Brandon Peters, and Scott Meadows will talk about the summer movie season from 2015, sorry. And I'm on all the socials at Aaron's PS4.
You can find my work at lenoirtour.net. I'm on Twitter at Terence B. Johnson. And you'll see me pop up in the summer at 10 not movies, the music sort of side episode at some point. I don't know quite when Brandon will be dropping those, but I will be on there as well.
Yeah, so just check out the summer 2015 at 10.
Yes.
And next week we'll be doing, or 2 weeks from now we'll be having Invasion of Astro Monster will be the next episode there. But that's going to do it this week. So this has been
Two Black Guys Talk Godzilla.
Two Black Guys Talk Godzilla is an independent podcast. The show is produced, edited, and distributed by Aaron Neuwirth and Terence Johnson. Theme music is sampled from Pharaoh Monch. Please rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts. Feel free to email us at blackguystalkgodzilla@gmail.com and follow us on the socials at BLK Godzilla Talk on Twitter and Blue Sky, and at Two Black Guys Talk Godzilla on Facebook and Instagram. And if you haven't already subscribed, feel free to do so wherever you download your podcasts so you can keep listening to Two Black Guys Talk Godzilla.